What is up? It is Rhett and Evan from the Cannon Fire podcast coming to you today with another video about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We wanted to put something like this out because a lot of rumors have surfaced around the fate of some offensive and defensive coordinators for Tampa Bay. Today, we're going to be talking about Byron Leftwich. As you guys have heard, there have been some rumors about Leftwich potentially being a target for some of these teams looking for a head coach in 2022. So over the offseason, he could just, sign somewhere else and not be a Buccaneer next season, or at least calling the plays for the Buccaneers. So I'm going to toss it over to Evan, who has some potential options for Tampa Bay if Byron Leftwich is to take a job somewhere else. Because even though there is still the playoffs, of course, I still think this stuff is important to talk about, especially with the new rule regarding the interview process for head coaches in the NFL, allowing certain teams to interview guys in the last 2 weeks of the regular season. Believe it or not, this is right where we are. So I think it's a perfect time to bring some stuff like this up. So, Evan, who have you got?
Yeah, so real quick, just before I list any names here, obviously these are names Byron Leftwich could very well take with him to, let's say, a Jacksonville if he were made the head coach and he can make them their offensive coordinator. Could very well happen. But let's say Byron Leftwich goes off and he brings his own staff. Here's some names I think could make sense. And the first one I'm going to bring up is Harold Goodwin, who is currently the assistant head coach / offensive line coach for the Buccaneers. He was with Arians in Pittsburgh. He's with Arians in Indianapolis, and he's been with Arians in Arizona. So now 4 different stops now with Arians. So clearly he's comfortable with Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians trusts him. And the Bucs, even Jason Light seemed to like him because back in 2016, when the Bucs hired Dirk Cutter, they also interviewed Harold Goodwin for their head coaching job. So the Bucs actually do like Harold Goodwin a good bit. He was the offensive coordinator in Arizona from 2013 to 2017, so it's not like he doesn't have any experience doing it. Now, I do believe at that point, Bruce Arians was still calling the plays, so he wasn't calling the plays like Byron Leftwich currently does, but he has experience in that role. He's already the assistant head coach. I think if Byron Leftwich were to leave, I think a guy like Goodwin could really step in. He's only 48 years old. I think he could step in and be a seamless transition, really. And it wouldn't really be much of a different offense at all. And the naysayers aside, the offense works, right? The offense is one of the best offenses in the NFL, despite frustrations with play calls. Goodwin is a guy who has experience being in this role, and I think he could thrive in it.
And I think, with the addition of Harold Goodwin, if they were to go that route, this is a Bucs team that hasn't shied away from hiring within. And I think luckily for Bruce Arians and this staff that he's put together, having a staff that's as deep as it is, I think the most coaches on a single staff in the league still for 2021, something like that is going to make this entire process easier. So definitely a guy like Goodwin is someone who already has knowledge with the team, already has a repertoire with a lot of these players. A lot of the guys in the offense probably like him and like having him as a coach. So, that's one of those decisions where it's not the sexy hire per se. I definitely think it's an appealing hire and one that could make a lot of sense. Who's next?
Yeah, so one more in-house candidate before we get to the outside candidate. So the in-house candidate is Kevin Garver. He is the wide receivers coach for the Buccaneers right now, 34 years old, so very young. He was with Arians in Arizona. Again, you're starting to see a trend here. It's his 4th year of being a wide receivers coach, 3rd year in Tampa, 4th year of being a wide receivers coach. He was actually retained in Arizona when Arians retired. He was retained and was made their wide receivers coach. So he's coached the wide receivers before. Obviously, it's a guy who doesn't have any play calling experience. He's never been offensive coordinator before, but he has a lot of potential, and a lot of people seem to like him. When the Bucs hired him for Arians staff back in 2019, the San Francisco 49ers also were really interested in him, and they wanted him to be their wide receivers coach. Kyle Shanahan has a great eye for offensive talent, right? So I think that's a really good endorsement for a guy like Kevin Garver, and we'll see what happens. I think he's a guy who has a lot of potential and could be, if they want to go sort of outside the box, but also stay like within, I think Kevin Garver could be that guy. And then the third and final guy I have is probably the most recognizable name on this list. Some probably this for some wrong reasons because of some shortcomings he's had as a coach. Freddie Kitchens, who is the current Giants interim offensive coordinator after they fired Jason Garrett. They fired Jason Garrett. They might be looking for just a brand new offensive coordinator. There's obviously a chance the Giants retain Kitchens if Joe Judge is also retained, which sounds like he might be. There's a chance they retain Kitchens as their offensive coordinator, but if they're looking for somebody fresh, Kitchens could be available. Kitchens is only 47 years old, and he's had a history with Arians as well. And yet again, just like Goodwin, he's somebody who has experience as an offensive coordinator. The plus side of Kitchens is that not only does he have experience there, he's been a head coach before. Now, we all know what happened his 1 year in Cleveland. The Browns got Odell Beckham Jr. They got all this and that. They got all the shiny toys. They were supposed to be so good. And what ended up happening, their season was a dud. And a lot of people blamed Freddie Kitchens. Kevin Stefanski came in and was able to lead him to the playoffs. And to me, that just signals he wasn't ready for a head coaching job. I still believe that he could be a good offensive coordinator. And I think that, he's proven in the past that he's a good offensive coordinator because, he was promoted to the head coach for a reason, because he was a good offensive coordinator. So I think a guy with history with Arians, if you wanted to go with an outside hire, keep Goodwin in his role, keep Garver in his role. If you wanted to go with an outside hire, I really do think that Freddie Kitchens could be an option.
And just to reiterate as we wrap things up, it's important to remember that, we'll cross this bridge when we come to it. The offseason will come and we'll know by the end of the Super Bowl, right? The week after the Super Bowl, we'll probably have a pretty good idea if any of the coordinators are going to be staying and going in Tampa Bay. But just something to float out there, because these final few weeks of the regular season, with the updated rules being what they are, do not be surprised when you start to see more of these rumors heat up for these teams who are looking for head coaches in the NFL for the 2022 season. Thank you guys for checking out this video. Subscribe to the channel for more great Buccaneers content. The podcast, of course, the mailbag, and videos just like this one. We'll talk to you guys later. Until then, and as always, go Bucs.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers from the 48-yard line. Second down, 13. Brady lobs one downfield. Caught ball by Gronkowski.